So, what if the secret to winning wasn't about being better, but about seeing the world for the brutal, competitive game it truly is? Today, we're going to break down a really fascinating and, yeah, deeply controversial philosophy of victory. It's a masterclass in strategy that kind of forces you to question everything you think you know about success and just dealing with people. This is the Ayanokoji philosophy. And it all kicks off with this pretty provocative question, one that gets right to the heart of this entire worldview. Is equality a false concept? Well, the Ayanokoji philosophy argues that, yeah, unequivocally, it is. And it says that accepting this fundamental inequality is the absolute first step to achieving any kind of real victory. Okay, so if you accept that idea, even just for a minute, the next step isn't to just jump into action. It's to understand the arena you're actually playing in. Which brings us to Section 1, the rules of the game. And according to this philosophy, that game is played on a field that is inherently unequal and competitive, right from the get-go. This quote right here, it just perfectly captures the mindset. See, the philosophy isn't just saying inequality is real. It's arguing that our denial of that fact is our biggest weakness. This isn't a worldview based on how we wish things were. Nope, it's based on a cold, hard look at how they actually are. So, if the world really is this unequal competition, how in the world do you win? That question takes us straight into Section 2, a philosophy for victory. And, this is where the core ideas start to get, well, truly radical. The first principle is brutally simple. Winning is everything. That's it. It's not about playing fair. It's not about the methods you use. The only thing that matters is the final outcome. From this point of view, basically any sacrifice is justified if it gets you that win. And that leads to the philosophy's most chilling concept, viewing people as tools. Now look, I know that sounds incredibly harsh, but the strategic purpose here is to completely strip emotional bias out of your decisions. If people are just instruments for reaching a goal, your personal feelings can't cloud your judgment. It's a path to pure, cold rationality. And this isn't just some abstract concept. This quote, wow, it just drives home how absolute this principle really is. It's a complete reframing of human relationships. Words like ally or friend, they get replaced by useful or not useful. Okay, so that's the what. But how does someone actually apply a philosophy that's this ruthless? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the strategist's toolkit. This is all about the specific mental frameworks you need to actually operate this way. Now, what's really interesting is how this philosophy frames the battle inside your own head. The whole goal is to relentlessly train your rational brain, your neocortex, to completely dominate the emotional, impulsive part, the limbic system. Every single decision has to be rooted in logic and data, never in feelings. And if you can pull that off, the strategic payoff for this kind of detachment is huge. You get crystal clear thinking, even under massive pressure. You stop making costly, impulsive mistakes. And maybe most importantly, you basically become a fortress, incredibly difficult for other people to manipulate using emotional appeals. This whole rational approach is then put into practice with a really simple but powerful feedback loop, the AAA framework. First, you act based on your plan. Then you assess the results and see how people react. And finally, you adjust your strategy with that new data. It's just this constant, relentless cycle of doing, learning, and adapting. So, here's the crucial point. None of this works without good intelligence. In this system, information is the most valuable currency there is. You have to gather it quietly, analyze it constantly, and then use it strategically to stay one step ahead of everyone else. But what's the cost of all this? This brings us to a really critical turning point in Section 4, the price of winning. Because let's be real, a philosophy this extreme doesn't come without a seriously heavy toll. And this table here, it lays out the trade-off perfectly. The columns really contrast the gains against the costs. So on one hand, yeah, you get unbiased decision-making and objective analysis. But the price you pay is devastating. Profound emotional isolation, a total loss of empathy, and pretty much being unable to form genuine human connections. Which, forces us to ask a really fundamental question. If you achieve all your goals, but you are completely alone, what have you actually won? What is the real value of victory without connection? That question kind of makes us look for a better way, right? And that brings us to our final section, strategy without sacrifice. Is it actually possible to take the useful lessons from this philosophy without paying that terrible human price? So this slide gives us a clear framework for a more balanced approach. The idea is to adapt the powerful strategic tools, things like long-term planning, emotional regulation, and rational decision-making. But at the same time, we have to consciously avoid the toxic stuff, treating people like tools, completely suppressing our emotions, and abandoning our ethical boundaries. Ultimately, the real takeaway here isn't to become some kind of master manipulator. It's to become a more effective strategist while consciously choosing to hold on to your empathy and your connections. It's about being capable, not cold. In the end, this whole philosophy forces us to look in the mirror and ask a pretty tough question. In our own lives, in our own pursuit of success, where do we draw the line between effective strategy and harmful manipulation? And that is something worth thinking about.